not going to win this tournament because everybody thinks they are, and typically a team that rolls in hot.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't like Florida to win this. But for Florida to come back in the way they did against Texas Tech and against Auburn and against Houston, it's so improbable when you're talking about
they were double
teams.
digits in all those games.
Well, they were
8 points or more.
8 points or more.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
It was,
Auburn
it
never
was
got
9
to
against
10.
Auburn. Yeah,
Okay.
Tech did have them down double digits, and obviously Houston had them double digits.
So they overcame 8-point deficits, at least 8+ points in the Elite Eight, the semifinals, and the National Championship. The only team to do that, according to CBS Sports, at least the last 20 years. That's in the time they had to publish it. I guess they've only gone back 20 years. But at least the last 20 years, the only team to overcome 8+ point deficits in games to win them in those final 3 big games. That's crazy.
The only team to ever do it then. I thought you were going to tell me there was another one that did
in the last
20
years.
Yeah.
That's as far as they go back at time of print.
It's so improbable to do that in the NCAA tournament. I mean, to do that in the regular season is one thing. To do that in the NCAA tournament, and especially that late in the NCAA tournament. But Houston was kind of the same way. I mean, Houston had to fight for their life against Gonzaga. That game ended up in the round of 32. They obviously had to fight for their life against Duke. There was one more.
Yeah, not as much as Florida. I mean, going back to UConn, and you can ask Dan Hurley about it. He felt like the officials were on the side of the Florida Gators. And then last night, I know Jay Williams was very public about this, but how you call 4 fouls in the first half and 25 in the second half, we talked about them letting them play on Saturday in the Alamo Dome. It didn't seem like that in the second half last night.
No, and that's always what bothers me about basketball officiating. I'm okay with whatever you are letting them do, let them do it, but let's don't change it in the second half.
Do it for 40 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2 different games last night. I thought it was sort of 2 different games in the Auburn Florida game. Thought it was 2 different games in the Houston Duke game. Just if you're going to let them chop people's arms off, let them do it in the second half, too. Don't change at halftime. When you get back there, probably, and you looked at video, and it's like,
we missed those.
We're sort of letting them play too much. Let's reel them in a little bit. Okay, we'll get some reaction from the losing locker room, and Kelvin Sampson. Can't call him a loser. I mean, you can't call him a loser.
I felt awful for him, really.
We'll talk about Houston, who came up short in this game coming up, and one amazing stat from Florida. The show being brought to you by an amazing man. That's Greg from Pell City and Storm Restoration Roofing. I'm telling you right now, when it comes to roofing, and I live in a situation where I don't get to control who puts the roof on my area, in my place. They're roofing today. I will just tell you that the quality of the workmanship I see going on there, I wish the whole neighborhood used Greg from Pell City. And at one point, I'm going to go to an HOA meeting.
Yeah.
But it's not today.
Pound the table.
It's not today. But at one point, I'm going to say,
get that way today.
You guys have got to get Greg from Pell City. I recommend anybody who's in charge of an HOA or at a townhome division like I'm in, or if you're looking for the best in the business when it comes to homes, Storm Restoration Roofing is the name. Just great customer service, first off. And A+ Better Business Bureau quality work right there. Greg from Pell City on Facebook, 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531. Absolutely the best in the business. And here's what he'll do for you today. He'll give you a free, no-cost, no-obligation roof inspection. He'll come out, take a look at your roof, see if you've had any storm damage recently. You don't know what's going on up there. Loose shingles can cause a major problem. We've had all these windstorms. So get Greg out there, 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531. Again, that's a free, no-cost, no-obligation roof inspection, and he'll help you out. He does building repairs, too. He's got a builder's license that he can take care of some stuff. He's doing some stuff at LT's house. Greg from Pell City on Facebook, 205-542-3531. Here is Kelvin Sampson on the difference between the Duke win and then the loss last night to Florida. Tyler.
After the game, to be disappointed you lost, but do not be disappointed in your effort. Defending Florida is difficult. They got a really, really good team. Coach Golden runs great schemes over there, but we guarded them. We held that team to 65 points. Thought if we held Duke to under 70, we'd have a good chance to win. And I felt like if we held Florida under 70, we'd have a good chance to win. Saturday, we found a way to win. Tonight, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But two great teams, two tough teams. You know.
Welcome in Braves country. Happy Tuesday. It is April 8th. It is Masters Week. Braves are playing the Phillies at home in Atlanta. It's a good time to be in the state of Georgia, must I say, Ush.
And we have baseball tonight. That's
do.
good news.
We do.
Bad news is Braves are 1-8 and they're welcoming the Phillies. Starting tonight, big series.
So we're going to get into a lot of things today. I'm excited for today's show. We're going to really give you guys a preview of what the Phillies have been doing since opening day, what the Braves have obviously been doing since opening day. We're going to recap the Marlins, talk about the Phillies, and really get in depth on these pitching matchups as well. Now, before we get started, Ush, if you want to be fabulous, if you want to wear fabulous Braves gear to Truist Park, if you're headed to Augusta, what should you wear?
You should go to rowback.com, fill your cart, and on your first order, enter code PG20, and you'll save 20% off your entire order. Bo is in Rowback today. Jim Dunaway is in Rowback today. Ryan Brown is in Rowback today. I am in Rowback today.
It's incredible.
It's the only way to go.
All right, let's jump in. We have so much to talk about. I want to start with the Marlins series. So I was actually out of town this past weekend, guys. I was on a bachelorette trip. Story for another time. Really, we can make a show out of that experience. But I missed most of the weekend. I was keeping up with it. Let's do a quick recap. I know game one went amazingly, and I know that game two was a major letdown.
It was almost euphoric Friday, and it was like a cleansing. I think it felt like a cleansing for Atlanta Braves fans to be at home, to produce runs, to shut out the other team, and obviously ultimately to win a baseball game. And to be able to do it in that fashion, to have a electric home crowd there coming off of such a horrific start, 0-7 going into that game, and to have a great crowd there was a really good feeling. And everything went well for Atlanta. They won 10-0, so obviously, scored runs. Marcel was 3 for 5. He had a home run and 3 RBIs. Matt Olson was 2 for 5. Also had a home run and 3 RBIs. So that was cool to see. But to me, the night really belonged to Spencer Schwellenbach. And he was 2 hit, 0 earned run, 10 strikeout
Incredible.
baseball. And partner, this is my favorite stat. He went 8 innings pitched in that game. 8 innings, which lessens the role of the bullpen, who does not have the utmost confidence from Braves country. He goes 8 innings. He was absolutely electric, dynamite, ace, all-star, one of the top pitchers in the game type performance from Spencer Schwellenbach.
So that brings us to game two, game three. Game 3 rescheduled.
Yes.
August 9th, rain out in Atlanta. What's frustrating about that is that it seemed as though, taking 2 of 3 from the Marlins really, in my opinion, could have been a sweep, should have been a sweep, to gain some confidence back. That now puts the Braves in a spot where they have the Phillies at home. And again, we're going to do some comparisons of what the Phillies have been doing. What did you see game 2 that was just unexcusable?
What the sweetness of Friday is ever more sour Saturday because it was so good Friday.
Yeah.
And because the offense popped and you did bring runners home. You weren't just hitting, you were hitting with runners in scoring position, you were hitting home runs. And, so A.J. Smith-Shawver on the mound for Atlanta, not off to a great start for him. He's 0-2 with a 5.19. Braves had 7 hits in the game. They couldn't do anything with them. They lost 0-4, and it was, more than anything, because Friday and then having that Saturday, another game where you don't score a run, left so many people in Braves country saying, who are we? What is this team? And I don't know. I don't know. We haven't played since then, by the way, obviously, because Sunday was rained out, and I was kind of, okay with that.
Yeah, you can't
because I was so
lose.
disgusted from Saturday. And I don't know. I don't know who this team is. You and I think, no one wants to put too much importance on one series, and especially a series in April. And so I want to temper what I'm about to say, knowing this is a marathon. This is 162 games. But you and I do think that this series will in some way indicate at least who the team is right now.
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it. And let us know in the chat what you feel like the identity of this Braves team is. We haven't really discussed that yet this season. And it seems maybe frivolous and silly to be discussing this in April. But if you are a Braves fan, you know why we're having to discuss this. Because there's a lot of, seems like, overhaul from last season that has continued to seep into this season. Now, you mentioned this series and how we don't want to put too much stock in it, of course. However, in my opinion, I'm in the camp of this is a defining series to figure out where the Braves are at. It's almost like a temperature check, in my opinion. It's a health check. Not literally.
Yeah.
But I think the mental makeup of the Braves, this should be a competitive series. It's the Phillies.
Well,
right?
you're 1-8. You're in last place. You have the first place team in your division, the 7-2 Phillies, who I believe, just telling Lance Taylor this before we went on the air, I believe that is the team best positioned to challenge the Dodgers in the National League. I feel that that's a team that has a great culture to them. They have the lineup, and I believe have the pitching in place to be a serious World Series contender. And so that is a bit of a measuring stick.
Yes.
For Atlanta to see what can you do. And we've got – it's interesting looking at the matchups, but, coming tonight, that doesn't get much better than that pitching matchup tonight.
Yes. Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler on the mound, Cy Young winner and Cy Young runner-up.
Yeah.
So that is just, on paper, this should be incredible. And I'm in the camp right now that I do feel like the Braves will rise to the occasion. I do feel like this could be the series that the Braves snap out of things. NL East matchup, this is huge. It's the Phillies in Atlanta. There are so many factors that should motivate the Braves to get it right over the next 3 days. Do you feel like you need to see the Braves just get a win, or are you thinking, again, I know it's a tough matchup. The Braves have played some really tough opponents starting the season. Do you think that you need to see a sweep to get this thing on the right track?
No, I do. I would feel really, really good to get 2 out of 3, and I'm going to tell you those two. We'll look at these matchups. That's games 1 and 3. So as we said, tonight Zach Wheeler 1-0 with a 1.38 ERA, taking on the reigning Cy Young winner Chris Sale, who's 0-1 with a 5.4. Then tomorrow, so the Phillies have Taijuan Walker. He's 1-0 with a 0.00 ERA. It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
And Grant Holmes, who's 0-1 with a 7.2. Yes, that is a 7.2 ERA. I do I'm a big Grant Holmes fan, and I feel that he is filling in as best as he can. He's a reliever who's been put in a starting position out of necessity right now. And then game 3, Jesus Luzardo, who's 2-0. 1.5 ERA. He has already 19 strikeouts already on the season, taking on the aforementioned Spencer Schwellenbach, 1-0, 0.00 ERA with 14 strikeouts. If the Braves can take games 1 and 3,
you feel good about it.
I feel great about it because I feel great about it if Scott Forster in the chat mentioning his White Sox says your team's infinitely better than mine. Scott, the White Sox have a better record than the Braves, pointing that out. But if the Braves were to take 2 or 3 from the White Sox, I'd feel good.
Yeah.
Look, the team is 1-8. I'm going to feel good about anything. If they take 2 or 3 from a team the caliber of Philadelphia, I feel very good.
I think what I'm looking for is if the Braves, and we talked about this pre-show, if the Braves come out and look lost, look dazed and confused at the plate, that will be an indicator that things are not headed in the right direction. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, what the answer is necessarily. I don't know if it's a team meeting. I don't know, what that marker is to turn things around. I feel like the Braves are given an opportunity. This is the, positive element in me. This is an opportunity for the Braves to respond.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you look at the pitching matchups,
Watch out there, Lionel. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, what kind of matchups are we having?
Yeah. The Pennant Grace goes blue today, everyone. Pitching
matchups. That was funny. We need to clip that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could call it that too.
Yeah,
yeah. You could.
I think that applies
Anyways,
in some ways.
They're favorable. And I like Chris Sale. He's had a few, I don't even want to call them errors, just a few things that have been taken advantage of.
Yes.
From, some batters. And I think that right now, when you look at what the Braves can do, they can do a lot with this series. It's, will they be able to? Will they be able to bring those runners home that are on base? That has been such an issue, and we continue to see it. I do want to mention this, Osh, and get your thoughts on it. There's been some interesting commentary statistically about the Braves and their approach at the plate. So the Braves have historically been one of the more aggressive swinging teams in baseball. That's just kind of how that's been their MO. And it appears, though, this season that they are kind of lessening that aggression at the plate. So you have, deeper at bats, you have pitch counts that are going up, and that's all fine and good. You have more walks, but they're still swinging at pitches they shouldn't swing at. So you're getting the same result. You're just adding pitches to the starter, which necessarily, it's not a bad thing.
It's not.
It's not a bad thing, but you have to marry that with runs.
You do.
That's what I'm looking for this series.
Yeah, and so we have to put a TBD on that because we don't really know how that's going to.
Right.
But it is interesting and something to look for, and a good reminder that there is a different hitting coach and a different approach at the plate.
There is.
So far, that has had what you could call very bad results. But I have noticed the higher pitch counts. You and I have talked about it. We'll see if that continues in that series. Looking at, to your point, can this lineup take advantage of the Phillies, and what will that lineup look like? Before that, a little programming note: all 6:15 start times.
That's good for you.
Central Standard. It is. Game 1 will also be broadcast. They're all on FanDuel, but Game 1 also broadcast on TBS, the old days, and Game 2 also broadcast on the MLB Network. So more ways to watch for people. So here's kind of what I'm thinking the lineup looks like based on what they've been doing. See what you think of this.
Okay.
So Michael Harris second at leadoff.
Okay.
Now we know when Ronald Acuna comes back, he'll assume that position. But you and I, going back to last season, both like Harris in that role. Ozzie Albies at 2, then followed by Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, Austin Riley. So far, that sounds about what you would think.
Pretty standard.
I'm thinking, and this is kind of what you've seen a little bit, having maybe De La Cruz after Riley.
Okay.
Sean Murphy should be in the lineup tonight. So Sean Murphy returning, by the way, Chadwick Tromp gone. So he has not signed with anyone yet, but his time has come to an end in Atlanta. Drake Baldwin staying on, Sean Murphy back. So obviously wish him the best, and good to have Murph back. I imagine he'll be next in the lineup. And then the shortstop spot, and we're going to get to that here in a minute, if that's Arcia or Nick Allen, and then Jared Kelenic. The Braves moved on from Chadwick Tromp, and before we get to this lineup and what you think, if that sounds about right, Jared Kelenic, maybe he's the next whose Atlanta tenure is up once Ronald Acuna comes back. Can anyone out there say that this experience, the Jared Kelenic experiment, and has worked, and it may be time to eat that? That's a pretty large amount of money that Atlanta took on for Jared Kelenic. I like Jared Kelenic. He's a very good outfielder. He is not a good hitter.
He is not, and where are the Braves struggling the most right now? At the plate.
At the plate.
Now, one thing, what would that do for the depth of this team? Do you feel like you're willing to exchange that in terms of, his success in the outfield? Because the outfield has already been so thin.
It is. So who do you have that you're going to bring up?
Right.
We talked about that a little bit with Reed. And are you going to make any moves, any early moves to bolster the outfield?
Yeah.
And just throwing that out there. As far as the lineup, about what I think it'll be, does that sound right to you?
Yeah. And with Sean Murphy coming back, I do want to give Drake Baldwin some flowers. I feel like he has been one of the better hitters at the plate, actually, when you kind of look at things. Him and Matt Olson have been extremely unlucky just in general. I think they are so close to, getting to that next spot. I cannot say the same for a lot of other guys in this lineup, but that looks fair and standard to me. I think Braves country will have, a sigh of relief in the next couple of months when you start seeing some more familiar names, if you will, up and down that lineup.
So we will see what happens there. Talking about shortstop, great article from Braves staff writer Mark Bowman yesterday on the 7th about Nick Allen. First off, Nick Allen wearing the goggles, going Kurt Rambis on us now. And he talked about how, who'd struggled at the plate, found out, with his stigmatism, having that on has helped him, particularly in night games. He's just 26 years old, and it seems like that he may have supplanted himself this season as shortstop. Now, Orlando was scheduled to start Sunday in the game that was rained out, and so he is still playing. But, Orlando in 2023 was an all-star.
It feels like so long ago.
And even in struggling last season, he still has pop. There's some power there. He's, hit 17 homers, nothing to sneeze at. Allen doesn't have that power, but he's batting .278, which for the Braves is
huge.
Ted Williams.
Right.
So do you feel that Nick Allen is going to be more often than not the starting shortstop for Atlanta?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think what Arcia brings this team is, you mentioned the pop, but two, the clubhouse seems to really like him.
Yeah.
I think that he's one of those glue guys that, we talked about a lot last season on the show about who are those guys that are going to step up, who's going to be some leadership guys. And now my opinion on Arcia is he is a personality that his teammates absolutely adore. We saw a little sneak peek of that behind the Braves during spring training. So for me, I still feel like Arcia will have the edge. But if push comes to shove, I could also, so I guess I'm in the middle. I could see Allen overtaking that. But right now, I think what Arcia has going for him is that clubhouse, mentality, leadership glue guy.
Well, I hate to focus on the past, and I hate to go negative.
Yeah.
Being a delusional optimist, I really hate to be a negative Nancy. We shouldn't be having this conversation because Dansby Swanson should still be the Braves' shortstop. Dansby Swanson, who got a great contract from the Cubs, but made it very clear was willing to take less and stay in Atlanta. And I'm not saying Dansby Swanson is a Hall of Fame player, but he is a better than average shortstop who was beloved by the fan base and should still be a Brave. I'm going to go ahead and get that out there.
Atlanta kid, grew up in Atlanta, but when you look at Dansby, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, he struggled at the plate too.
He did, but not to the level.
Yeah.
And, even Orlando in the early part, we're only 9 games in. We've seen a few. He doesn't look quite the same even in the field as well. And, again, my point just being Dansby is still an above-average starting shortstop and is a guy that you would want to have continue into that role, and they could have done it. He wanted to stay, and not just in word. He really wanted to stay, and he made it clear, and he was willing to work with that. So that one still kind of sticks in my craw.
For me, that's Travis d'Arnaud. I still don't. I don't understand that one. I mean, Dansby, that was on the back end too of Freddie Freeman. I mean, that was correct. That was kind of traumatic for.
It was back consecutive years.
Yeah. So that's an interesting discussion. What do you guys think about the shortstop situation? That was something that I personally wanted to see improved, especially at the plate. So I'm curious going forward what that looks like. Osh, if you could describe your emotions towards this series in one word, what would it be?
Hopeful.
Hopeful.
I am hopeful that even if the Braves, now it's going to be really hard to spin this thing if they get swept, but even if the Braves lose 2 of 3, if they play well and hit, I will come away with some encouragement.
Okay.
I would rather hit and lose than don't hit and lose. Yeah, and that's you're losing. What is the difference? But there is a difference. I want to see the team. You can't have a game like Friday and explode in your offense and then absolutely nothing, and you're never building any rhythm, any momentum. I would like to see the Braves build some type of momentum at the plate.
Okay, going off of that, I want your thoughts on this. So a great resource for baseball fans in general is the Locked On Network. And they have football as well, but they do a great, team specific. So I was listening to the Phillies Locked On video just to kind of get familiar with them as we head into the series. And they were doing a little crossover with the Braves Locked On Network as well. And they kind of started discussing this about how the Braves have been so close to almost coming away with a win. One swing of the bat. They're so close, so they could just get that guy home. At what point does that have to shift? Like, how much longer can we be thinking, okay, if you guys, start scoring runs, if you start getting offensive rhythm, it's okay if you don't, get the win, but if we get that rhythm going, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So there is the middle level. You can't continue at the level you're at where you're 1-8. You can't continue that win percentage. And you obviously want to flip that and just go on this heater. But there's also the middle where you're still not, your record is still not good, but it's not just abhorrent.
Right.
And so if you can get to the point where you're not already eliminated, in May, just you're doing enough to kind of hang around while you're figuring these things out.
You're okay with it.
Because then you can always make a, July, August run. And that's possible if you're hanging around. But if you're in the basement, you can get hot and it may not be enough.
I think my sentiment in bringing that up is it felt like this conversation, and we've said this, I feel like almost every episode with you guys, it's the same issues lingering from last season. And I think that is the most frustrating thing. I feel like we were having these conversations. The Braves are so close. They're so close to getting in that offensive rhythm. They're so close. They're almost there. The off season, everyone's so excited to come back. And now you're 1-8.
Yes.
I don't want to be a pessimist. I know that we are quite literally 2 weeks into this season. There's a lot that can change. There's a lot of games left to play. I am wondering what that next phase will be. What will be the wake-up call? I'm hoping, you use the word hopeful, I'm cautious about this series.
Cautious.
I do think that this could be a turning point for the Braves. And when I say turning point, I don't mean this season. I mean going back to last season to work out some, demons that they have.
Yes.
I am cautious, but I am hopeful. And I really do want to put emphasis on this series, that this could be a launch point for the Braves to be the Braves of old, to be familiar, find the offensive rhythm, take these games at home, and cruise on.
And if nothing else, you're at home, and it's 7-15 day. The great Hank Aaron, who is without question the greatest Brave of all time. In my opinion, he's the greatest baseball player of all time. If you look at his consistency for a long period of time, and obviously just a symbol for the organization, for Atlanta, and just for class and dignity in professional sports. The great Hank Aaron being honored. The Braves do a tremendous job of keeping him at the forefront, which is, good for all of us. So if they could win one for Hank, that would be great. We do have a Phillies correspondent on the Pennant Grace, Travis Millsaps, and not any trash talk yet.
Really?
From him.
That's kind of surprising.
So we'll see. He may surprise me and show up, and I open the front door, and he socks me with a sleeping bag full of pennies or something.
Maybe. Here's hoping.
Big time sucker punch.
My last note on this series before we wrap things up is one thing I want Braves country to be paying attention to is, this is the Locked On guys, they're great. He was saying how the Phillies have struggled to hit off of starting pitchers. So keep that in mind. If the Braves can capitalize on that, get their offensive going, their bullpen is just as decimated as the Braves. So that's something to be really looking for is, can the Braves get a hot start? And can the starting pitching do what they have been doing this whole time? Be consistent for the most part. I do think those are the places that the Braves can find an edge and kind of run with it.
Staying in the game while the starter is in.
Yeah.
So that maybe you can take advantage when the bullpen comes in.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about Thursday's show. So after this Phillies series, which we'll recap Thursday, you have 3 at Tampa, followed by 3 at Toronto. Then you're off on the 17th, come back home and have the Twins and the Cardinals. So just a look at the schedule ahead. But after the Phillies, as I said, the next team up is the Tampa Rays. Who, partner, do we know that is a Tampa Rays fan?
Jim Dunaway.
Legend of all legends, James Jr., Jim Dunaway, joining the Pennant Grace Thursday, right here, 12:15 Thursday. Big.
We're excited, so make sure you are tuned in for that. Dunaway is a dear friend of the Pennant Grace. He does such a great job of promoting our shows.
Godfather
us.
of the Pennant
Yes,
Grace.
if you will. So we're very excited for that. Make sure you are tuned in. We'll be back Thursday at 12:15. Give us your thoughts on social media over the next few days. We'll be interacting. Let's plan to do a post-game reaction at some point.
Sounds great.
So be on the lookout for that in all the usual places. My X account at MEG_sports, Disrupt Media YouTube channel, and then we're on podcasts. So wherever you find your favorite podcast, Spotify or Apple, we're there as well. So keep that in mind. And let's kind of have a fun couple days. Philly series, interact with us. We'll be chatting. And hopefully come Thursday, we're having a pretty happy show.
Well, win or lose, I'm going to be looking good as I watch the Braves.
Will.
For those that crave activity or even crave sitting on the couch and watching baseball, Roback.com and use code PG20 on your first order, and it'll save you 20%.
And on behalf of Emily Grace McWhorter, that is me, that is Ush Sisk, also the commissioner of Shelby County. We thank you, but I like to say the commissioner.
I like that
cooler.
too.
Yeah. We thank you for joining us, Braves Country, and we will be back at 12:15 Central on Thursday.